It's time for the Blazor Power Hour.
Welcome to the Blazor Power Hour.
Introducing the Blazor Power Hour.
No, seriously, it's time for Blazor Power Hour.
Hey friends, it's time for the Blazor Power Hour.
Hello everybody, and welcome to the Blazor Power Hour.
You're checking out the Blazor Power Hour.
Welcome to the Blazor Power Hour.
It's Blazor Power Hour. Go Ed!
Are you ready? Are you set? Got everything all ready to go? Let's do it. Let's do the Blazor Power Hour.
Hey friends, welcome to the Blazor Power Hour. I think the introduction speaks for itself. I won't go as far to say that I have the best Blazor stream or show on the web, but I will say I definitely have the best introduction nailed, right? So awesome community members there help me with that, and it keeps getting better. Just added our program manager for Telerik UI for Blazor, Maria, to that intro list. So that was nice of her to add that video for me. Much appreciated. Today we're going to do a show that revolves around frequently asked questions. Some of these things, it's always hard to gauge a show like this as to what skill level folks are at out there. And I always try to aim for at least covering ground for people that are brand new to the framework. So if you know some of these things in advance, I apologize, but not everyone out there is at the same level. So I gotta hit some of the more frequently asked things. These are things I've found on like Stack Overflow and stuff. They're valid questions, even though the solutions to some of them are very easy. So I'm gonna start with something really basic today. We're going to use Blazor REPL for this one. I don't think I need a full-blown IDE to go through some of these, but stick around. You'll learn something, even if you are an expert. I'm sure there is a pretty cool tip here and there that you'll learn something from. So I'm going to try to zoom this in just a little bit more. Let me know if you're able to see this well or not. Let's get our zoom tool up and running as well, just in case. Actually, I thought I fixed the problem. It wasn't loading when I started Windows, but I may have closed it. So we've got our zoom tool. We can zoom in nice and big here. One of the first questions that really stuck out to me, I saw this on Stack Overflow. There's a lot of people coming from different backgrounds that are in kind of getting involved with Blazor now. Maybe you're from a JavaScript or Vue, any of those other front-end frameworks. Maybe you're coming from Ruby, or maybe you're a WordPress developer and you're starting to dabble in Blazor, and you see how the Razor markup works, and you run into an issue where you want to put, say, somebody's Twitter handle or maybe somebody's email. And these are not valid entries. So what happens here is you need to escape these @ symbols. And it is pretty intuitive, but this is a question that people are asking out there. So I want to give an answer to this one. Double @ will escape these at any time and make that a single @ symbol when it is rendered. So that's like a super basic thing, very introduction to Razor markup, but something that people are running into out there. So I thought I'd touch on that really quick. There's a lot of ways to write code out in Blazor as well. So there are the braces like this, where you can put code inside of a Razor enclosure like that. So you can see I rendered out 2 over here. And inside of templates, you'll often see this one as well. So you can actually put in code here. And you can do certain templating features with that style of an enclosure as well. So there's a lot of simple Razor things out there that people are asking about. Just thought I would touch on those really quick. Another one that I saw that we can have a little bit more fun with, that might not be something that all of you long-timers have tried with Blazor so far, is there's actually a built-in color picker. So this was a question that I saw. How do I create a color picker in Blazor? So one of the first tips that I give people about Blazor is that Blazor can do anything that HTML, CSS can do. Technically, it can do anything that JavaScript can do as well. Sometimes it may require you to write JavaScript. That is not the case here. This is just an HTML thing. So we have input type equals color. This type equals color part is the important bit. So what we can do is actually put this in our application. And we can say input type is color, run that. And notice I immediately got a little black square right here. Doesn't look like much on the surface, but this is actually our color picker right here. So what we can do is click on that. This will look different depending on what browser and what operating system you're running, by the way. So this is fairly standard across the board. I think iOS has like a color wheel. There's some information about all of these different types of color pickers. There's the Mac OS one there. So they will vary a little bit from OS to OS, but for the most part, this gives you the RGB hexadecimal code for picking a color. And we can actually do stuff with this in Blazor. So if I have input equals color, we can actually do some very simple data binding here. We can set this up. This is actually going to come back as a string. So we can set up a variable for this, and we can bind our color picker here to that color. And we should be able to hook into on change events and all of those things as well. And we can write this out. We need to actually make some use of this here. So we'll say chosen color up here, run that. It's never assigned to always be null. Did we do that right? Just making sure real quick here. And I'm not binding. Let's try bind. Make sure I'm doing this right. And there we go. So I had the syntax off a little bit. We wanted to do bind, not just assign a value to it. So this is a really quick way to just grab a color and make use of it. this is really actually handy for a lot of customization features that you might want to add to your application. So for example, if you wanted to, maybe you're running the Telerik UI library, something that I'm very fond of and have a lot to do with. Maybe you want to give your users a option to like pick the color of their charts, for example. You can actually pop one of these color pickers on the screen and just bind the chart component color field to this value. You could two-way bind that, and then people can choose the color of their charting bars and things right there in the browser. So that's a super handy trick that you can use. And you can see right here the color that comes back. So we could actually, let's try this out here. We can go ahead and put a style up here and say color and set that to the chosen color. And let's give that a shot. Let's see if that little simple piece of code there does what we want. There we go. So we've bound the H1 tag with a style attribute right there. And now we can pick the color of that H1 tag. So that's how easy it is to bind, say, a component to that color picker. Just using that field, finding the right color property. In this case, we're just using the style attribute. If this was a complex component like the chart, you could use the color property on that one. If we look that up in the docs real quick, let's see if we can find that guy in here. We've got labels, data binding. There's so many properties in here. Color is definitely one of them. I wanted to see if I saw a reference to it in here. But you can easily color these things, and they will take that hexadecimal color. Let's see. I can't find all of the data binding properties off the top of my head here, but it's just basically color, I think, is the name of the property. And that one is, again, easily bound, and you can set those chart colors up and other components as well. Anything that has the ability to receive a color input can get that. So that's fact number 2 right there, the color chooser. Super simple. Gotta love that one. Let's save that one. And I'm going to share this one with the audience here, in case you want to try that one out yourself. That one's live in Blazor REPL. We'll put this up in the GitHub repo that I've got going for the show too. So I have a GitHub repo for the show, and you can ask questions here through the issues section. If you'd like to ask a question, I'll try to cover those on the show. We had a really good one a few weeks ago, so I'll put this in chat as well. You'll also find a back catalog of previous shows and some of the code that we did on those shows. And again, this is one of the ones that we had a few weeks ago, the Blazor touch events and swipe gestures. So we built a swipe gesture recognition. And it looks like the tips are starting to work out for folks. Glad you found that useful. Yeah, input type color is definitely a cool one. There's a lot of input types that we can use in forms, and just changing that type attribute on the input field gives you, and here's a good list of them here. We've got checkboxes and dates and ranges and URLs, all sorts of things. It's nice to use things like TEL for telephone numbers is a nice one, because things like this are intuitive to even email and URL. What's nice about these isn't so much the web portion of it, but if you pick up a device like a mobile phone or a tablet and you've got an on-screen keyboard, generally speaking, those devices will see that it is type TEL, and it will bring up the appropriate keyboard, the appropriate on-screen keyboard for that device. So that's something that I don't think I have a way of demonstrating here on stream without doing some clever like emulation or something. But the on-screen keyboard, for example, will show just numbers if you have a telephone input. So it makes it a lot easier for the user to enter those things in. Same thing goes with like the email input type. So if you're using an email input type on the desktop, might not seem like such a useful thing to have, but when you're on a mobile device, when the mobile device detects this email type here, the keyboard should resemble what you would need to enter an email address, which means it adds things like .com buttons and stuff like that to the on-screen keyboard. So those are handy ones to remember as well. We covered the input file on a show recently as well. So if you look back through that back catalog, the file uploader where you get to choose your file, that sort of thing we covered as well. So inputs can do a lot of things. Color is definitely one of those things. So we will put these Blazor REPLs that we're doing today in these show notes as well. So those things are backed up for people to go look at and use. Next tip, or FAQ, whatever you want to call it. It's about handling nulls and null patterns in things like attributes. So there's a lot of attribute technicalities that come with Blazor. And one of those things is we can set, just like I did the style up here, we can set things at runtime like class attributes. So let's see here. We can have a div class equals, and we could put some special class that we're going to get from our code down here. So let's do some sort of alert or something like that. And let's close that tag off. And then down here, we'll have something like this. String is the CSS class for the alert. And let's say we have alert danger in there. And we might want to render that CSS class up here. Like that. Now we need to write a little bit of CSS code. Let's throw this down at the bottom here. And we need to have alert.alert.danger. And we'll put some sort of value in here. Background. Let's just go with a red color. I'll steal this red color here. Even though those two things don't have, the demos don't have anything to do with each other. Set the foreground color to white. And then maybe we need a little bit of like padding or something. So let's see if that does a trick. Enclosed style tag has no matching end tag. What did I miss with a style? Oh, of course. Gotta close that style tag off. Let's try to run that one. Okay, there's our alert. So we've got this nice alert banner up here. So if we take a look at the HTML that is behind this alert box, you can see what we actually render is div alert danger. Okay, that's what we wanted. Now, there are times where these things are conditional. So we might have an if statement in here that decides what this CSS is going to be. So we do something like this. So let's say, let's try with an input. Input type we'll do a checkbox here, and we'll bind that value to some flag. We'll say that this is going to be the flag that sets the alert style. So we're going to use this flag to toggle that on and off. So right now, it doesn't do anything. We need to bind. Let's see here. I'm missing closing tag. I'm bad at closing tags today. So we need to close that off. Let's see if that works there. So we've got a checkbox here. Doesn't really do anything right this second. Let's use that bound value. So let's take this CSS alert, and we're going to make it intelligent here. We're going to add a fat arrow or a lambda here. And this is basically a way of saying this is a get-only property, and it is going to check that set alert style. And if that alert style is true, then it's going to be setting the class to alert danger. And if it is not, we'll go ahead and return no string there. So it'll turn that on and off. Let's see what that does. So it started false. We'll click that, and there is our data binding. Hey, Curious Drive, welcome. Welcome to the show, my friend. So what we've got here is a simple data binding that is setting some sort of CSS value. We do this a lot in Blazor for many, many different reasons. This is just a very simplistic way so I can show how Blazor handles some of these data bindings like this. So we've got class as CSS alert. Let me turn that back off for a minute. Remember, it initializes at false. Let's see what it actually rendered here. And if I zoom in, we have div class and it's empty. So the class attribute's shown here, but it was set to an empty string. So it's just rendering an empty attribute. So what I'd like to do is, instead of showing what is actually rendered, is like this. We'll put this up here for a second. When the string is empty like this, what we render is literally that code to the browser. The browser's taking that off because it's empty and just showing us this class here. But this is potentially, stuff that the render tree has to put on the screen. Can I use CSS isolation in Blazor REPL? That's a good question, Curious Drive. We'll have to check that out in a minute and see. I don't think so. I want to say, you know what? One way to probably check this would be if I inspect the page and then look at the head tag. I seriously doubt it works. There would be some sort of CSS tag up here, I would think. Yeah, we'll have to try it and see, but I doubt it. So this CSS class gets rendered like this. It's kind of a waste to send text to the browser when it's not useful for anything. What I'd actually like to do is just render the div without the class tag. To do that, instead of setting these to an empty string, what we can do is set it to null. And I don't normally suggest throwing nulls around a system, but when we're rendering strings out to a Razor template, null actually works in our favor here. So if you look now, that div alert is not showing any class attribute whatsoever. There was a raid from Eagle. I didn't see it because, let's see, I'm in StreamYard, which sometimes hides those messages. Yes, you did raid. Thank you so much, Eagle. So Eagle just started streaming. If you click on Eagle's name in Twitch, if you're watching this on Twitch right now, click on Eagle's name, hit follow, and you'll get notified when Eagle goes live. So make sure you guys do that. Thanks for the raid, Eagle. So here we are with this alert box, and I'll zoom in again here, or put it in my, let's see, I'll zoom in a little bit more on the, let's see if I can get this just right. I'm trying to get it nice and big. I know these things are kind of hard to see on stream. There we go. I want it highlighted. So now when I toggle, watch what happens here. It's removing that entire class attribute, including the class attribute itself. Because this is null instead of an empty string. So empty string will add the class attribute name and keep the value empty, where null just wipes that thing out completely. There's other handy things that you can do with this. So disabled states are very similar. So if we look at, let's say we want to disable the color chooser. Let's go ahead and disable that guy. Let's see. We can say disabled equals set alert style. Let's go ahead and bind the disabled state here. Let's give that a shot. And then notice this is disabled now, but watch what's rendered here. So this is a true false, and you don't see, what you don't see is what you might have expected. Let's see if I can get this to zoom again. There we go. So what one might have expected to see here is the text. I clicked over too far here. Let me try this again. There we go. So what you might have expected to see is disabled equals true, like that. Instead, it only renders the attribute, because this is what's needed by HTML. So that's what the browser wants. It doesn't really necessarily care if it's true or false. If it's false, it shouldn't be there. And Blazor is smart enough, if you watch me remove that check mark, it will disable or enable that box by just removing that disabled attribute. So that entire attribute gets turned on and off by this true-false flag. So that's a pretty cool feature that is part of the Razor engine in Blazor here. So we've got that one. Let me see, what else can we do here? This color style is pretty interesting. If we take this, I'm trying to think, if we take this and bind it down here. Okay, so we let's try something else. Let's see if we can use a CSS attribute. So this is another thing that you can use in Blazor that most people probably don't know about. So when I'm doing, let's go back to the REPL. When I'm setting this style tag here, inline styles are not my favorite thing. I really dislike doing inline styles. But it's a quick and easy way to do some data binding against an element like this and coloring it. Instead, what would be nice is if this was part of CSS somehow, and the user could change the CSS at runtime with some sort of variable attribute instead of you doing an inline style like this. And this is something that's actually possible here I'm going to see if I can do this without looking at docs. But what we can do is say, for example, let's set the background color of the alert danger. One way I could do it, and this is kind of not the point, is I could come right in and put the style in my page or my component, and I could use Razor inside of here. That's not a great practice either. If this is a component that's repeated in any fashion, this style tag will also get repeated many times in the markup. We could probably see it actually in here. Let's zoom out a little bit. See what we've got here. Yeah, you can see the style tag up here. And if that style tag or if that component were repeated, then everything, including the style tag in it, gets repeated as well. So we don't really want to put the Razor code in there. So what we can do is we can make this part of the CSS logic. And let me see if I can do this correctly without looking at the docs. We should be able to create a root here and say alert background. And we can set up our own CSS property here. And then down here, we can say var equals alert background. And if we toggle this on, that still works. So we're using a variable here. We've declared the default in the root, and then now we have alert danger here. So what we can do with this now is we can actually set this at the style level, but it's not an inline style. It still works in conjunction with CSS. So let's give that a try. Actually, that style still works. We have a custom now. Alert background. Let's rerun that one. And let's see if our data binding still holds up here. And something did not work quite right. Let me see here. I've done this before. I don't know exactly what's... Oh, I forgot to turn... Nope. It should be bound here. They should have a dark theme for Blazor REPL. That is true. Did I... The inline style should override this guy. It may be the way that this is defined on the page here. This might need to be in in its own CSS file for this to work properly. So that may be the issue. Should you set the color of the H1 to alert background 2? Oh, yeah, actually, you're correct. Lordy Don's got the actual issue here. I forgot to set the alert danger. I'm on the wrong component, actually. What I meant to do, let's put this one back here. Let's leave that one for example. Style, background, or this was just color. I meant to do it here. So we'll leave this alert here. We'll say style equals, then we put the double dash for our custom attribute or property, and then we bind to the chosen color. We'll rerun that one, and we'll make sure our alert is shown, and then oh, I'm disabling. That doesn't work. Let's change this to something like a blue color. There we go. That did the trick. Just to make this a little less annoying of a demo here, I'm going to flip the bit on this alert style so it doesn't disable unless it's checked. So now I can set my color while it's unchecked there. But this gives you some more data binding options. So the style here isn't overriding the background color necessarily for that component as it is. It's overriding the CSS variable for this. So this is actually a little bit more handy because this this can be used for other things within this the style here. So if I had, say, a border, then I could also have that border color in there. Let's try this. 5 pixels, dashed, and let's put it black for a moment. Rerun that so it's outlined in black here, and now if I move this variable down, watch what kind of effect this has. So we'll change this now. And it's hard to see because it's part of the border there. But the point being that is a variable now. So it can cascade down to other things within that value there. So we can reuse it other than just setting the background style color. We're actually setting a variable that can be used in more than one place was the point there. So that can be really, really handy if it's a more complex component that has children elements and things like that in it. So CSS variables are something that we can use natively in Blazor to our advantage. Let's see, what else did I have on my list here? Inputs. I'm going to go back to inputs again for one more second. This was a question I saw again, and a lot of these answers are going back to the simple rule of thumb. Anything anything that you want to do in Blazor, if HTML can do it, Blazor can do it too. So the question was, can I have a password field in Blazor? And once again, that is how you do a password field, is you just set the type of the input field to password. And in here, you're going to get a field that blocks out what the user can see. So the type equals password is what you're looking for that one. So a lot of these are really simple things that go with just HTML in general. I don't know why that wanted to. Oh, the browser's trying to save a password for the site now because it has a password field in it. So again, you get things for free when you use the right types on your inputs. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and move this up here too to make the demo just a little bit easier because it keeps... oh, it won't let me do that. I need to put it in quotes. I believe this is what the problem is. There we go. The alert kept... yeah, it kept initializing with no background color, which made the demo kind of strange. All right. So we've got some things data bound here. We've got simple toggles, stuff like that. Blazor's super intuitive. So a lot of these, again, a lot of these questions are just your basic HTML is generally going to save you a lot of trouble. Just good HTML knowledge is going to save you a lot of trouble. And speaking of HTML, it's another question that comes up frequently. We see this question a lot, and it's very heavily discussed on Stack Overflow. I see it a lot in Blazor chat channels. A quick Google search will get you the answer for this, but I want to make sure we cover all our bases here because, again, I keep seeing this question come up. If you are wanting to render raw HTML, there's rarely a good reason to do this, by the way. I'm not giving you free license to just run raw HTML into your page. There's a lot of security issues that could arise from this. The reason it's handy is if you're doing like a real-time editor or something like that, sometimes you need to do this. It's a very rare occasion that you'll need this though in Blazor. But if I try to render this markup, you will see that it renders it very literally as a string. So it's including the H1 tag in there right up in the markup here. What's really kind of cool about this is it's encoding this string and then decoding it. So you get the correct output up here. If we look at the markup for it, so if the actual like rendered markup here, I guess even the browser is doing this here, but often what you'll see is the encoded value of it, which is like $, GT, something like that, I think. It's greater than, less than. It gets encoded out. Blazor looks like it's handling that behind the scenes, but what we want to actually do is render the markup for that one. So we actually want to render an H1 element there instead of that text. Again, if you're making a text editor, this is something that you might need to do. Other than that, I would highly suggest against it. But to answer the frequently asked question, let's go ahead and put in the code for this. So we're going to wrap this in a quick code block here and cast it to a markup string. So we're casting the string into an object called Markup String, and this is a special class for Blazor that tells it to render that raw HTML in that place instead of rendering it as is a string. So Markup String is a type that you can use to render that out. So hopefully that helps with that question. Again, I see that a lot. I'm not sure if people's minds are in the right place when they're trying to use it. Use it with a whole heap of caution. Only use it when you absolutely need to. I did a demo. Let's see if I can get this up and running here. I did a demo for our webinar, for the Telerik webinar a couple weeks ago. And there is, actually I didn't need it specifically for this demo, but I could have used it. In this one, we're taking, the Telerik component is handling this transformation for us, so we don't technically need it here. But this is the type of experience that you might want to create, and you would need that render markup string for. For example, if I'm taking some markdown, this was an editor I built on our webinar show. So if you're building an editor like this one, which I suggest just going and getting the component and not having to do all that work, you can transform markup into HTML, render that HTML directly in the browser using that markup string attribute. The editor component here is very detailed and does this internally for us, so we don't have to worry about that sort of thing. And it also comes with all sorts of tools for adding links and headers and all of those sorts of things. So if I came in here and wanted to change this heading to a different style, I can update that, and you can see the markup getting rendered in real time as well. This is using a splitter component that's really cool for these type of experiences too. If you wanted to create your own, say, Blazor REPL, for example, it has some sort of like splitter type of behavior to it. You can do that with that Telerik UI library, but that markup string that's about the only use I could see for something like that. If you're trying to render H1 tags or change some sort of markup at runtime, you should really be using your Razor templates and things like that, and writing the markup explicitly in your component code, not as raw strings and rendering those out. That's not what you want to do. Let me see if I've got any more questions in my notes here. I took notes of a lot of things that I saw that I could cover in just a short period of time. And I think that's about all of them. So if you have any questions in chat you think I can cover in the next 15 minutes, let me know and we can try to tackle them live on the show. While I've got your attention, we have some extra time. Next week, we're going to be doing a live show here on the Code It Live channel. And if we go to the Code It Live channel on Twitch, we can see the schedule here and what shows we have coming up. Let's pause that. That was a really, really strange place to pause that video. Anyhow, let's see the schedule this week. Next week we have the Love Connection. So this is our holiday, what's it called, Valentine's Day holiday event that we're doing. We're going to be streaming from 11:30 to 1. We've got a couple contestants, including me and my coworker Alyssa. Sam Basu and TJ Vantel are on another team, and we are going to code some applications live on the show with some hidden special guests that we don't know who they are. Their identities have been hidden from us, and they're going to help us build a holiday-themed app. So we're throwing around some ideas of what that holiday-themed app will be. Again, that's going to be live on Monday morning. I don't want to give too much away. We're going to involve some use of webcams and maybe some AI and machine learning and Blazor and all kinds of fun stuff. So make sure you tune in Monday afternoon to check that out. That should be a lot of fun. We're definitely using Blazor for that. And Alyssa is new to .NET and Blazor. She's learning a lot, and she's bringing with her some CSS skills that we can leverage. And then we're going to have like a mystery guest. And the mystery guest, I don't know their set of skills and how they will be able to help us. That's part of the excitement around the show. So we don't know these things, so it should be a lot of fun. And I've got some proof of concepts that I've been putting together in Blazor to help with that. And it's taken me a bit of JavaScript, actually. So should make for an interesting show next week when we have to put these things to task. So hopefully you picked up some good tips here. I'll try to tidy this up, and I'll post this example up to that Blazor repo on GitHub. For now, I'll leave a link to it here in chat. I think that, it updated let me make sure I've got the newest link. Put the link in chat so you guys can play with that in Blazor REPL, but I'm going to try to tidy this up a little bit and compartmentalize which demos do what. And then it'll be a little bit easier to understand if you haven't seen the show and you open the page, what exactly is going on in here. So thank you all for joining me this week. This week I have Blazor state has changed on Friday on my channel. It's a channel that's under my name, so you won't see that on Code It Live, but you'll see it as my name. My name is right here at the bottom of the screen. So you can write that one down, click follow on that channel as well, and catch me on Friday. I don't know exactly what I'm working on yet on Friday, but I always have some sort of personal project that I'm tinkering with. And then next week on Monday, I'll be back here on Code It Live. Now, let's see. What else do I have coming up here that we can talk about? I had one more thing I wanted to remind everybody of before I left for the week. More fantastic shows on this channel, so keep it tuned here, and I will catch you all next week, of course. Monday we have the show about the special project, special guests and all of that. Next Wednesday on Blazor Power Hour, I'm going to review that JavaScript interrupt code that I was talking about in detail, so we can learn about using webcams in Blazor. So that show's already scheduled and up on our YouTube page, scheduled for next week, and scheduled on our Twitch as well. So that one's going to be about the video tag. The video tag, canvas, and all sorts of interesting little things that I found the other day that I thought people would enjoy. So catch us next week. Thanks again. And let's double check before I go, see if we have anyone we can raid at this time. And we will definitely see you on Friday. Let's see here. Is anybody up for a raid? Oh, we have Jeff Blankenberg. Let's go raid Jeff Blankenberg. Good friend of mine. And he is currently working at Amazon, I believe. And I don't know if this raid is kicking off right now. Why is it telling me 0 viewers are ready to raid Jeff Blankenberg? That's interesting. Let's see if this works. If it does, you'll see Jeff. If not, the stream is ending. Thanks again.